Okay, so now we're going to make shapes. The first thing you're going to do is need to make sure you are on a layer that you can work on. In this case, select the layer in the layers panel. Now you get your shape tool. Now to rectangle tool, partway down the toolbar, if you click on that and hold, it will open up the submenu. And if you can break that off by clicking on the bar and then move out, and you'll have all the shapes that you want. In this case, the rectangle tool is the one we're going to use first. And a quick way to use the rectangle tool, start from the option bar here and make sure the fill here is something that you'll actually see. White's not going to work for this case. Let's go ahead and pick any other color. I'm going to go ahead and pick a purple. And the next one is the stroke. I do not want a stroke in this particular shape, so I'm going to go ahead and click on none. Notice now that this number changed, the stroke there goes away. And then I'll just click off onto the bar there to deactivate that. And now I've got my crosshair here. I can click in the corner of the artboard and drag across and just draw a shape, a rectangle. Now notice here in the transfer form pad here, if you don't see that, go to Window Transform panel. I can actually change the size of this if I want to. In this case, I do. I'm going to change that to 95. Hit return. And then I'm going to get my zoom tool. I'm going to zoom in up here. Come in here and get my selection tool there and just make sure that that's going to fit in there. Which is what it's going to do. I'm happy with that. In my layers panel, make sure you open up your UI layer there and note the word rectangle. Expand mine. I want to always name your shapes. It'll be a requirement in this class. So in this case, I'm going to change that. I'll just change that to logo. Okay, so that's the first gig. Now another way to create a shape really quickly and easily is to actually duplicate an existing shape. One way to quickly duplicate an existing shape is to select it in the layer panel, click, hold, and drag it down to the new layer icon in the bottom of the layer panel and release. And you will get a new layer shape right there, boom. I'm going to select the lower one and rename it. I'm going to rename it banner. Click on it, make sure in the target it's collected. My selection tool, I'm going to grab the top anchor bar, oops, and drag it down. And I'm going to go with, use that number right there, and I'm going to, hopefully it will get to 100. Well, it's 100.73. So I'm going to change, again, I can just go back in here in the transfer panel and delete that part and hit return, and it'll resize my banner. However, I need to distinguish my banner from my logo area, so I'm going to go ahead and change the color of that to something else. So I will do that, and then again, now if I want to zoom in here, again, I can zoom in and notice that my logo and my banner aren't really behaving exactly the way I want them. I want everything nice and clean. If I select both of these, I'm going to hold down my Shift key and select both of these. I can go up in the option bar here, in the option bar, or on the Align panel, either one. In the Align panel, if I'm in the Align panel, I will have to click on the outside panel and show options so that I can tell it what to align to. In this case, I want it to align to the artboard. Now, all I really want it to do is align center. So I'm going to click on horizontal align center, and notice now that my items there are aligning properly. And also, that would be fine with that. If I really want to be, I can zoom in here and really make sure that everything's going on. I can go to logo here and align the logo to the top. That's not doing that. Align to top. and then move my banner up so that it's, and then I can go to View, Fit on Artboard there, and see where I'm at. All right, logo, banner. I'm going to go ahead and File, Save, just to make sure everything's happening. Okay, next thing I'm going to do here is note that my logo and my banner I want to indicate as my, what would be called a header area group. So if I select both my logo and hold down the Shift key and select my banner, I can group these. I can go to Object, Group. Once I create a group, I can double click on the name group there. I'm going to go ahead and name that header. I can expand that group. It acts like a group because it is a group. I'll leave that there. All right. Next thing I'm going to do is create a rectangle here. And I can preset the color of a rectangle if I want to. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and change that to an orange. And I'm going to get my rectangle. Another way to make a rectangle, if you somewhat know what size it needs to be, I can actually click anywhere once. And I'm going to go with 700. I'm going to go with the width of, let's go with 250. I'll see what happens there. And click OK. And it was a little bit short. So I'm going to go ahead and, oops, cancel that. While it's there, I can click on and drag it down. And I'm going to make it 310. I'm not quite getting that number. So I, again, go to my transform panel and type in 310. I can also go to my line and make sure again that it's lining to the key by centering it in the, sure it's centering to everything. And align that there. Now, again, always making sure that the flow of your layer panel matches the flow of the design in the far as the hierarchy goes. So you need to move elements around in the layer panel so that it reflects again the layers going along in the design. So in this case there, and also naming that. So I'm going to go ahead and name that graphic. And then click OK. I'm happy with that. Okay, next thing, we're going to be allocating some text here. We got what appears to be an H1 tag. We could also then have some content here, and what we're going to call a CTA, or a call to action. And the last bit of this looks like there would be a rule or a line. So let's go ahead and chunk each one of those out. Another thing I want to consider again is how much space all over are we going to allocate for each one of these. In this case, we actually don't want to go all the way to the end. We want to have a little bit of white space or padding around our content so that's easier to read. So we can denote that in our UI example here. And again, I'm going to preset the color and its content. So we're going to go ahead and I'll pick a gray to use. So we'll use different shades of gray to denote. I'll use a 70 to do the H1 tag. And again, I'll get my shape. And I am going to, again, I'm going to click about that far. I'm going to kind of line it up with the edge there. I'm going to click once. I'm going to type in here. I'm going to go ahead and take off 10 pixels on both sides and just type in 680 here. And I'm going to say that that height of that text probably would be around 30. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And again, I'm going to click on Align and align the center there, and it bounces right in there very nicely. All right. Again, it's way up there. I'm going to have to move that in the layer panel. I'm going to have to move that down below the graphic. Double click on the name there, and I'll just call that H1. Okay, again, I can continue. I'm going to go ahead and make a new shape here. That'll be my H2 there. I'll make that slightly less color there at 60. Again, I'll just click in this area here. Same number will be there, 680. I'll just go ahead and leave that. And the next number there, I will change that to 16. Click OK. And align that. And maybe 16 was a little bit, yeah, maybe 18 would have been more sufficient. So again, I'll go to transform, and I'll change that to 18. Click OK. And make sure that that's aligning also to the board. And click over in the layers panel. I'll click and hold and drag that down and name that a02. Last bit there is what here of content. It's just content. So I'm going to go ahead and get, again, my rectangle tool. I'll pre-fill that with 50%. And I'm going to go ahead and just kind of click, hold, and drag that around and just go in there and cover all that up. And use the transform here to make sure that the number is correct here. And again, make sure that this is a whole number. I always like to use tens if nothing else, so I'll just do that. And again, align that to the center. Make sure that that's being aligned there. And whipping right along, and again, I'm going to move that down underneath the H1. I'm going to change that to content and leave that just like that. Okay, I got two more elements here, so-called, in this particular set. So I'm going to go ahead and get my rounded corner rectangle. Preset a color, and again, I'll go up here and I'll select this cranberry color, I guess, in that case. And here I'm going to go ahead and it's telling me I'm on the wrong layer, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure I'm on a layer I can draw, so I can. And then I'll just kind of click in the area where I want to put it. It definitely doesn't need to be that wide, maybe 200 sufficient. And a height of 50. A button, if it's a button, any kind of button, should not be anything less than 50. And a radius corner 5 is sufficient for this. And I'll just click OK there. And again, if I want to make sure it's centered, I'll just leave it like that. And now this is a button. Button is a call to action anytime that you have a button set. So I'm going to go ahead and call that a call to action. And then I'm going to move that down underneath my content. And click off it and leave that there. The last part of this segment here, or this grouping, would be a rule. I can draw a line as easy as anything else. I can actually, two ways to do that. One is to actually get your line tool here. Another one is to create a rectangle tool. We'll just go ahead with the line tool. Click on the line tool. Now, interesting thing about a line, of course, is the size. I'm going to click once and tell it to be, in this case, 600. Click OK, and it goes off into nowhere. Well, we're going to undo that. All right, another easier way to make a line, and actually within the design, it's easier to do this in the end run anyways, is to actually just make a very skinny rectangle. First of all, I'm going to change the color to 20%. That's good. Then I'll make sure I'm on a layer that works, and I'm going to click on the rectangle tool. And I'm going to click generally where I want to put that line, and I'm going to make that line height 2. And I'll make the width, let's see, it's 600, looks sufficient, and click OK. And again, get my selection tool and align that center. And name that rectangle rule. And if you really, 2 pixel, just to make sure you know what it is. And I'm going to move that underneath the CTA. Click off of that. So now I've got a graphic, which I'm going to highlight. Click in the layer panel, hold down the Shift key, my H2 to content, my CTA, and my rule, all selected. I can group those, object, group, and I'll name that item 1. Okay, at this point I definitely need to save, so I will save. And we'll call this part 2.